Hello everyone, and welcome back to another WARNO tier list. And today we are a bit more of a subjective topic, as we are going into the tier list for the current map ranked pool. And we're gonna rank the current ranked maps based from S to D tier. In this type, it's personally my opinion. And yeah, let me know down below how your tier list for the maps would look like. I will link the link down below as well, so you can share it on the Discord and so on, which you can find down below as well. And let's get into this, as we are going to start with Airport. And Airport is a map that I always liked. I think Airport is a pretty solid A tier for me. I never got overly overfed with it, even though it has been now quite a while in the map pool. And I know people who don't like it, but for me, the flexibility of the four center zones plus the sometimes potential for the rear zone actually makes it quite nice to play. Like, it has that one big town on the side, it has that open airfield in the middle, it has that somewhat offside zone where you just can get, if you want to invest into it, as the side that is a bit further away from it, but you can make it a combat zone as well. And then the rear zones, they can swing the late game. They can be a really aggressive opener where you push for it and the enemy really has to feel the pressure if they overinvest into the airfield and so on. Like, they're decently placed there as well. So I always enjoyed Airport. It is also decently balanced between most divisions. Obviously, it has a bit more open fields than others, but that's quite nice as well. So yeah, Airport here gets a solid A tier for me. It's a map that I really enjoy. Then we come to Black Forest, and we for the old guys under you, this they know that this is not the first version of Black Forest that we got. It's not even the second version of Black Forest that we got. It's the third or fourth iteration of Black Forest that we got, and by now it's okay. The earlier versions were all between D and C tier. I would put the current Black Forest into a solid B tier. It's a pretty solid map as well. It is damn slow on the tick still, and that late game comeback potential is always pretty frustratingly low. And I really get annoyed when people in League don't realize that and give up too many points on it. But I know where this comes from, because on most maps you have a comeback potential in the late game because there are enough points on the map. It's not quite feeling the same for this map, as yeah, even though it has the same amount of points actually as Airport, you never have that much to contest there, and getting like the +4, +6 on this map feels really hard. Which, yeah, it's weird, but it's, yeah, the slow take on it is pretty brutal. And outside of that, though, they now made it so that both tank divisions and infantry divisions have their fields to play on it. That feels really good. The balance on it in general feels solid. It has a weaker and a stronger side to some degree, yes, but we have seen both sides win many times by now in some good matchups balance-wise as well. So it's really more about division matchups and how you approach it. And yeah, I like it. Black Forest is a okay map. As I said, I think the legacy that it has taken over from the original version still puts a bit of a hold on it, and I feel like there's a bit too much dead zone on this map, where I wish there would be something to do with it. But in general, Black Forest is a pretty solid map. And then we come to Chemicals. Chemicals is a map that we also had in a previous version, and then it was gone for a long while, only to reappear with this ranked season in a new shape. And I love the base idea behind this shape, and I'm really happy because I pushed Eugen to go for corner to corner maps, and with Kreide and Chemicals, we're getting more of that. And I think this is a massive improvement over the base concept of the like one side to one side maps that we have, because if you have corner to corner maps, you really use the whole map. If you have corner to corner maps, there's also a defender's advantage if you push towards their side, because they have to defend a slightly smaller front line than the attacker has. It's not just the overstretching of supply lines, but also a bit more front width that the attacker has to defend, or that the winning side has to defend compared to the defending side. And it yeah, just gives so much room. Chemicals is a map that maybe is slightly too big for it even already, because there's just a lot of room on this map. But they also use the river really well on it. It's still a river map, but it's the best you could do out of a river map for a 1v1 map, and I'm happy that we got it. Like, it's basically our only river map. I wouldn't really count Mount River, because the river is basically just the side of the map. So, yeah, as it's the only river map, it's actually surprisingly good. And I know people complain about the side balance a bit on it. I haven't felt that, neither in the games I casted so far, nor in the games I've played. Like, I know what the people are talking about, but we have seen the weak side win a good couple of times now, and we have also, same for me goes in the ranked matches. Like, I still think picking better divisions and so on is way more impactful than the weaker or stronger side on it. And for divisions, I also feel like it is fairly balanced for most divisions outside of the super expensive ones like third US and so on. It kind of suffers on Chemical because you have to spread out a bit, and divisions that struggle a bit with that, they kind of struggle. But even the slightly more expensive ones, they already do kind of fine because you can still focus on one point. Like, if you hold your side of the river and then go for the flank of the other side, there are enough points there that you can ignore the island and so on. So there are enough approaches there. There's enough points to take as well, that you have nice swings and so on in the late game and so on. I like Chemicals, both from a perspective of the viewer and the player's perspective. So yeah, Chemicals here. Solid 8 here for me as well. Now we come to Death Row. And I'm sorry, but I can't see this map anymore. I was so happy when Death Row was gone. And then they reworked it, and it didn't make it better. It even arguably made it worse. The deforestation, like the split in the middle, I like of the zones. That it's not one big blob zone anymore. But they cut too much forest on it. Like, cutting a bit of forest, I kind of understand, but especially cutting the forest on the side zone that is not on the side zones that are not on the hill, that was a mistake. Like, the map already was favored for heavier, slower divisions that can win on the hill with tanks, like, and now it's even more that, because you can't just bypass it with infantry on the side, which was like the one sneaky trick that you could do to kind of ignore the middle and still win the game by getting for that flank and so on. And you can't do that anymore. It's too much open ground in there as well that you can now shut down pretty easily from both sides as well. So that kind of killed Death Row completely for me. Like, as the reshuffling of the middle was a good thing, but they made some bad decisions next to it. Balance of it is also kind of wonky. There are a couple of arguments that I heard that the weak side is actually not the weak side, not that weak of a side, and I kind of get it. So I don't think it's terrible. I don't think any of the maps currently are super imbalanced sidewise, which is a major improvement over past iterations of maps. Like, you still will see people complaining about the side, and there are points where you can complain, but it's division matchups and skill is way more important than the side by now. And that is key. I still wish we would have a bit more mirroring for the map pool maps, for the rank pool maps, but it's okay here on Death Row as well. But the map itself is just not my thing at all. So yeah, Death Row goes into D tier here. And then we come to Hesse. And I like Hesse a lot. From the design, the map looks awesome. The railway line in the middle, the nice village area with the big with the farm on the side. I like that the hill and then the way they integrated the railway dam in the middle and how they use that. And then the town is also cool because it was our first real towny map in the 1v1 ranked pool, and it actually is pretty interesting to move around there as well. And I also kind of like what they did with the zones. It's a bit slow. That's an issue. It's once more an 8-pointer. And in my eyes, it should be a 10-pointer. At least the rear zones should be 2 points. And they are super annoying to get to, so they absolutely should be 2 points. I mean, they're basically on the enemy spawn, so if you should get there, you should get a 2-pointer. So that late game swing around push gets rewarded. So all of that has a kind of a C tier map for me. Yeah, C tier for Hesse here for me, as I like the combat on it most of the time. I don't like the scoring at all. Like, I like the ideas of the flanks that you can do on Hesse, and I like the base concept of the map. As I said, you have enough grounds for every division and so on, but it never feels super fun to play for the points on this map. And that's kind of annoying. And it's kind of okay that you with the zones as well. It's not as bad as Death Row, because you can ignore the zones for a long while of the game because they're on each side, so you can just play for the kind of destruction mode and then in the end push over and win. But you can't fully ignore them because if the enemy gets an early lead, it becomes really frustrating to get back. And as I said, they just don't feel great. And other maps do it better, but in general, a solid map. So yeah, it goes into C tier here and is doing well there. And then we come into Mount River. Mount River is a pretty good map, and I am surprised how good it is. Like, when I first saw Mount River 1v1, I was like, is this really the map you want to put in 1v1 map on? Because, like, it felt super narrow for team games, obviously, and it was never a team game map I liked, which it was before it became a 1v1 map. And then they made it a 1v1 map, and it was like, yeah, I guess the size actually fits 1v1 better, but it still has a lot of dead space with that other side of the river that is completely unused, which really should have a road or something there. And the big mountain on the other side that also is kind of dead space. Like, it's kind of a mix of Death Row and Two Lakes. But it somehow is way better than Death Row and Two Lakes, because the points make it way better than Death Row and Two Lakes. Like, this is a surprisingly good map when it comes to forcing you all over the map and giving you different approaches without completely feeling like the zones are in the center of everything. Like, they are a focus point, but you also can play for destruction on this map. And I really like that. The two deep zones on this one side indicate that this side is the less important one, because it doesn't have a middle zone, but it's still important enough that you can't fully ignore it, because the enemy can still use that to their advantage to get a tick and force you. Plus, if they get there, then they can also circle around and so on. Like, yeah, it's a really interesting map. They can also use it to circle around into the middle. And in general, the map plays really well. It's also looked imbalanced because the one side has the taller buildings, but the other side has a couple of speed advantages in the early game and so on. So in the end, I really enjoy Mount River. Mount River is a map that I didn't expect to enjoy, but I enjoyed quite a lot, and I'm really happy it's in ranked, and it should just replace Death Row and Two Lakes fully, and they should go, and Mount River should stay. But yeah, that's another story. And then we come to the newest map in the map pool, and that is Kreide. And Kreide looks cool. Kreide is also pretty cool because it has that terrace feeling with different height levels that go down. And I like that already when we had that in the Steel Division only 44. There was a cool 1v1 map there that had it, that went from one terrace level to another. Only that Steel Division only 44 suffered because it didn't have a line of sight that could show elevation at all. So it made it kind of hard to understand from where you could shoot which spot, but outside of that, the map was awesome. Kreide is pretty similar in that regard. The zone placement takes some time to get used to, and you need to kind of understand which are the important points there. Like that the point on the low floor is somehow the one that you need to fight the most in the early game, because it's actually really hard to get back into, is something that you need to grasp, because it feels like usually you should be going high ground to low ground. Like, that's how every video game and every Star Wars movie told you should think. Doesn't quite work the same on Kreide, and I was a bit surprised when I first played, but actually the map plays pretty decent. The 3 points in the center are good for aggression. The round flank over the high ground works. You have a bit of maneuvering on the other side as well. And yeah, both sides actually even out decently as well. It's not super balanced either, because it is pretty asymmetrical, but in general, it still feels really nice. Like, you have open grounds for tank battles, you have good forests, and that's something that Eugen really did pretty well lately with the mix of open ground, towns, and forests. Not so many towns here, but The forest and open ground mix is pretty good, so infantry play can work out, tank play can work out, and all of that is pretty smooth. So in the end, I would put Kreide into B tier. I don't love the map. It has too few points once more. It's a map that takes pretty long quite often in a balanced matchup. And I still think the best pointers are 9 to 12. Like 9 to 11, I believe, is the absolute sweet spot for ticks. And the 8 pointers and 7 pointers here are just a bit too slow. I once more would argue the rear zones should be 2 pointers, then it would have the 9 and everything would be great. But yeah, that's just me. I like those late game pushes that can turn around everything, and we currently don't have enough of that, and that's an issue in my eyes. That's also an issue that kind of makes divisions like 30US and so on suffer right now, because they don't get rewarded for late game enough that it matters. And yeah, as a spectator in a tournament, as a commentator, it's just like, oh yeah, this guy is down 1,000 points, he's dead now, and that doesn't feel great. And Kreide is one more map that has that issue. Outside of that, I like the map a lot, but that's what keeps it out of A and S tier here. And then we come to a map that I really don't like. Two Lakes. D tier. Yeah, let's talk about why. Two Lakes has been in here for too long. Like, that's the first and maybe even the most important issue of the map. We all have played Two Lakes too many times. And way too many times by now. For me, I have seen it in tournament games way too many times. And we haven't seen any new take on how to play Two Lakes in a long while. Like, they have tried to change the map, and it has improved slightly over its old version, I would even say. It helped, but this map just needs to get the hell out here when the next ranked maps come around and we can rotate it out. Because I think the number of maps that we have in ranked pool currently, that feels fine. Like 11 is a good number. We shouldn't go higher because new players would be impossible to onboard at that point then, because they need to learn all the maps and so on, and that just gets too many. Steel Division 2 has that issue, and it also gives you... It's annoying to play old maps. So yeah, rotating them out with new maps, giving a fresh feeling to the ranked map pool, increasing the chance that you can get the new maps as well is important. So yeah, rotating some old maps out, I would argue for these two, obviously, would be nice. So, Two Lakes, yeah, it's just old. And the center town fights, they are so predictable. And yes, there's a bit of gamble often with the lighter division and the heavier division, where the heavier division has to decide if it wants to defend its better side or if it's going for the other side because it thinks that the rush division underinvests into their own side and so on, and then it goes all from there. But often the games are decided in the first 5 minutes. Afterwards, it's a long grind. And as I said, we have seen a couple of attempts actually to bypass towns and stuff and so on, but it never worked out, and it's not really something that you can do. And in the end, it's about these two towns, and the map is too narrow. The map doesn't have anything to offer anymore, and it just get the hell out of here. And yeah, that brings us to Two Ways, which, if we would have had it, or the whole time it existed, might feel the same as Two Lakes now. But I would argue, even if we would have had it as long, it wouldn't feel that way, because it's a lot wider map and has a couple more interesting points. It is a somewhat unbalanced map. Maybe the most unbalanced map between the sides in the pool, but it is way, way better than what we had back in the day, as Eugen at least recut some roads and some tree lines back in the day. They haven't redone anything about it before they put it back into the map pool, and they should have. Like, the one side has the weaker town, and the one where you can get easier in as the other side, and it also has some weirder roads on the other side of the map as well. So yeah, one side is clearly the weaker side, but it's still not unwinnable, and it has some interesting stuff going on there as well. And in general, the map feels great to play from a big strategy standpoint. Like, it feels like you have options, and it has options. Like, you can go for the middle because the middle is a massive 3-pointer, and if you win there, you get a lot of points. you can go for the side deep push and get some victory there. You can go for the absolute madness, push one side down and try to get to the enemy rear zone, or make the same thing through the middle and go for the enemy rear zone and try to end the game as early as possible, overextending yourself massively, but maybe getting rewarded with a lot of points and just getting to the 2000s. It has a bit too many points, I would argue. And I think it would even feel better if the center would be a +1 zone, because then it wouldn't be quite as important. And maybe you could spread those points out, and don't know how, but yeah. In general, two ways feels pretty solid. It is just a bit too big, it's a bit too imbalanced, so that's why I still would put it into C tier here. I felt quite nice having it back though. I disliked the map way more back then than I do right now. That's also because currently the game doesn't feel quite as rushy as it felt back in 2022, 2023, and we also don't have super fast, like a couple of speeds were reduced and so on, so two ways feels a bit smoother now. Not as many obnoxious rear line sniping units like the SPG-9 was back then and so on, so the gameplay improving helped two ways a lot as well. And I think a lot of people have PTSD from the map from back in the day and mistreated a bit now. I still wouldn't say it's an amazing map. I still also think we should get with newer designs in the future. So I'm not sad if it rotates out when we get to the next or the second next map that we will get, and then it can just leave. But that's it for two ways here. Solid C tier. And then we come to Frontlines. And I don't know. This map seems to split the community. Or maybe I'm just one of the few that actually likes it. But I like this map. I'm so happy we have a city fight, like a real city fight map like it. Like not just like one that kind of cuts into the city like Hesse, where you can ignore the city for the most part as well. But one where you actually have to fight in the urban center. I also love the look of it with the railway, and yeah, the original real life town that it is placed on is a really cool one as well, with those train lines going directly through the city center and so on. And yeah, it's just a cool design. I like the layout decently well as well. People have said that it is too focused on light divisions. I don't quite think it's true. Like, especially if you have AVREs and so on, and like good artillery in your tank divisions and use that well, you can do a lot of work with that. These are not useless, and the sides are pretty pushable with tanks as well, so that's something. And this map has enough points as well. Has the 9-pointer that I wanted to see as a minimum, and it just does all of that well. I wouldn't quite put it into S tier because yes, it's a bit too much of its thing, and it's not a it can do everything map, and we currently don't quite have that in the map pools, which I'm a bit sad about. That's why there will not be an S tier map, spoilers, but it does the job pretty well. So yeah, Urban Frontlines solidly into A tier here. I really like it quite a bit. And then we come to Vertigo, the final map here, and Vertigo we go into B tier with. I still like Vertigo as a base concept. I believe from the earlier maps, it is still the best, and it has all the rights to be around in the map pool the second longest now, consecutively. As the rework of it is a bit of a miss in my eyes. Like, it improved the base, the middle area a lot. The new buildings that they added in the middle and so on, great additions. I just wish there would be +1 rear zones behind the fabric, the industrial area in the north, and on both sides the +1 zone, just to make it a bit more interesting to push deep there. Because at the moment it's just like a pretty predictable way of how this map goes, but it gives you good fights, and that's what I love Vertigo for. Like, the engagements are so skill based and it's so much fun to watch usually. And we had some of the best games of WARNO of all time on this map. And yeah, watching it is just a lot of fun. Like, there are so many good engagements on it. You can rush on it, you can go for late game on it. It's a pretty versatile map in what can work strategy wise, though the paths are pretty given now on how you do these strategies. And that's the problem with it, because it feels like the space is a bit less flexible than it should be. As I said, some rear zones in the northern area here would help out quite a bit. But that's about it for bad things with Vertigo, and I like the rest. Like, it's just a good battlefield. The zone layout is not the greatest, but it's a fantastic battlefield, and that's why it's here in B tier now. If it would get a good zone layout, it would go into A tier, and if they make it actually really hit hard, it might even go into S tier, and I hope Eugen will get back to it at some point. But yeah, that is it for Vertigo, and it is it for the tier list. Let me know down below what you would put into D tier, and if you feel any map deserves S tier at the moment. And yep, see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for watching.